Good afternoon and good morning. Let us begin a book launch webinar. My name is Izumi Ohno from GRIPS and also Senior Advisor to the JICA Ogata Sadako Research Institute for Peace and Development. I am one of the editors of the book and serving a Master of Ceremony today. We are excited about the great interest shown in this topic. First, on behalf of the JICA Ogata Research Institute, Dr. Akio Hosono will give opening remarks. Dr. Hosono has been Senior Research Advisor of the Institute since 2013, and before that, he was the Executive Director of the JICA Research Institute. The research team is very grateful for his advice and contribution to the chapter 2 of this book. Dr. Hosono, please.
Thank you very much, Professor Ohno. Distinguished speakers and panelists, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining this book launching seminar on the recent publication of open access book entitled Introducing Foreign Models for Development, Japanese Experience and Cooperation in the Age of New Technology. Industrial development is the driving force of economic and social transformation and growth. For this process, learning foreign knowledge and technologies is essential. History demonstrates the centrality of learning for industrial catch-up. However, the speed of learning varies significantly among countries, resulting in a different performance in economic development. How can they learn effectively to design homegrown development strategies? The book we launched today aims to address this long-standing development issue. I would like to highlight two distinguishing natures of this book. First, it discusses this issue with a key concept, translative adaptation, which involves selectively adopting and adapting foreign knowledge and technologies to the specific conditions of the home society under the strong influence of dominant global trends. Another distinguishing nature of the book is that it discusses the issue having in mind radically changing landscape of industrial development today, with such megatrends as globalization, digital transformation, and increasing concern for inclusive, sustainable, and resilient development. Furthermore, there are three reasons why this book adds value to the existing research and debate on industrialization. First, how of learning. How countries can enhance policy and societal capacity to learn external knowledge and technology to adapt them to the local context. Second, perspective of Japan's past experience and its extensive development cooperation. Third, combination of theory with concrete case studies. Editors and authors of this book are active practitioners of developing cooperation with academic credentials. In this seminar, the editors will provide an overview of the book, followed by comments from international experts of South Korea, Germany, and Ethiopia, who have deep expertise on knowledge cooperation. We would like to present a new perspective and practical approach to learning and knowledge co-creation to economic development, and discuss how this learning method should or should not be revised in the age of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs, and digitalization. I hope the seminar will also provide a valuable opportunity to share international experiences of knowledge cooperation and reflect on the development strategies of the 21st century. I hope that this seminar will have a productive outcomes, obtaining deeper understanding of translative adaptation process for industrial development, consisting of effective learning from foreign models and adapting them to local conditions while exerting strong country ownership. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The first part of the program is an overview of the book and consists of two presentations by myself and by Mr. Kimiaki Jim, 15 minutes each. So let me go forward. So let me go and share the screen. Okay, thank you so much. So let me try to highlight key aspects of this book by sharing the concept of this book. This book, Introducing Foreign Models for Development, is based on our research and publication at the JICA Ogata Research Institute, Japanese experience of industrial development and development cooperation, analysis of translative adaptation. We are very much interested in practical approach to learning and knowledge co-creation for developing countries in the process of economic development. And then before going to this publication, we also had a series of case studies. First on industrial policy learning. Second is quality and productivity improvement. And currently, we are also working on the case study book on skill development. So all of them are available in online. So I hope you will take a look at it. And then this is the book content. So as Dr. Hosono mentioned, it is written by 10 authors with rich experience in research and practice in development cooperation. And some of us will be showing up today. And it consists of 3 parts, which I will be explaining more in detail. Centrality of learning for development. It is widely agreed and shared that the knowledge as a catalyst for industrialization and local learning is vitally important. Joseph Stiglitz talked about the importance of creating a learning society, and Alkebe Okubai and Kenichi Ohno also discuss how nations learn. And today, there are ample opportunities for many countries to access frontier knowledge easily, but the speed of learning varies among countries. Furthermore, the national leaders and policymakers face many challenges in the real world, such as how to design homegrown development strategies, how to adapt donor advice and best practices to the reality of the countries, and what institutional arrangements are suitable for the countries. So we need to pay greater attention to the practical aspect of learning. Here, I would like to highlight learning method matters, because introducing foreign model for development is a dynamic interaction of the local and foreign knowledges, and it is really important for developing countries to build an internal mechanism that continuously absorb foreign knowledge and adapt to the local context. And this is actually what happened in East Asia. Japan learned from the West in modernization, South Korea, Taiwan, look with policy by Malaysia, Singapore, and China, and many countries, Thailand, Indonesia, etc. But there exists limited research on this how aspects of industrial policy making and learning. There are many examples of the good best practices, but how is still have to be thought out. And more recently, there are many more actors, both DAC and non-DAC partners are willing to share respective development cooperation experiences. So it is very important not just pay attention to what should be done, but how it can be achieved. Here, translative adaptation is a key to localized learning. So we consider this as a key concept, which is learn foreign models, modify and adapt them to create a homegrown model. It is a global integration with a national ownership coupled with selection of model and management of the process. And it is based on Japan's own learning experiences for industrial catch-up, including Meiji and post-war. We tend to look into the real sector activities on growth ingredient by step-by-step approach by looking at concretely capacity development. And actually, these perspectives shared through our industrial experiences have been reflected in the Japanese Development Corporation. Let me visualize this in this slide. Actually, translative adaptation comes from the anthropological theory by Professor Keiji Maegawa. He is an economic anthropologist. He looked at many countries, including Pacific Island, which seems to be very vulnerable to the external influences. But he found out that those latecomer society is not really weak if it can control the type, type, and speed of the importation of foreign influences. And it can even use them to stimulate the new growth in the existing society. So if we apply this theory to the development context, it is very important to manage this process by the government, for example, adjusting foreign model to your own local situation, and also motivating that the society and people to be embracing new things and also mindset changes for transformation. Also, together with the literature of technology transfer, we have developed analytical framework of three-stage process of local learning and translative adaptation. So learning stage, adaptation, internalization stage, scaling up. But it is important at this learning stage to selectively find out, identify which model, which benchmark country is suitable to a country, and then study carefully. And then also study adaptability in your local context, which require that the communication with the various partners, and then scaling up. So in this way, external knowledge can be combined with initial local knowledge, and then enhanced knowledge, local knowledge can be created. So in this book, we have asked these questions and then conducted case studies. In doing that, we paid attention to two types of learning. One is policy learning by the government, in particularly industrial policy, and then societal learning by various actors, particularly private sector. And then this is the structure of the book. So we have three topics, themes. Blue is industrial policy area, orange is skill development, and then green is Kaizen, quality and productivity improvement. And then each of them, we try to understand what is a Japanese development experience, Japanese learning experiences, and how we share this knowledge with other partner countries, and then how partner countries have responded. We also have a chapter which looked into the new landscape and then think about the implication for that knowledge cooperation. So let me go to several chapters, starting with Professor Hosono's chapter 2. This is about case studies in 5 countries looking at the industrial policies with impact of transformation. So Japan, Korea, Malaysia, Brazil, Chile, etc. And we found out that a diversity of development strategy. So it is translative adaptation, it's country specific. And then learning took place through industry, government, academia collaboration and leading to societal capacity development. But there are key ingredients of these exercises, which include attention to uniqueness of each country and society, and country ownership is vital, and also process orientation with try and error. We also have a chapter which looked into Japanese experiences and what kind of perspective have fostered, including Meiji modernization, where learning to industrialize was a national project. So government was an initiator, and they sent a famous Iwakura mission. More than 100 people spent 2 years in learning from various technology and knowledge from US and Europe. And then they hired foreign advisor, but it became too expensive. So it internalized by training, educating Japanese people by internalizing foreign knowledge in domestically. But post-war period, private sector is a main actor of the learning, particularly Ministry of International Trade and Industry acted as a facilitator role, but it jointly worked with private sector for learning various knowledges. Chapter 3 of Mr. Amatsu discussed the Meiji modernization period, how Meiji government gradually strengthened its policy capacities, in particularly vision formulation. Initially, it was very much euphoria, ambitious basis, but gradually government developed the capabilities also with the growth of private sector to understand the reality of the economic situation, and then development capacity, that the vision development capacity has been enhanced, with become much more realistic. Chapter 4, myself and Mr. Getafun discussed that the post-war Japanese experience, how we learned the quality productivity improvement, Kaizen, from US and European country, and how adapted to the more participatory way, and then how to disseminate it in the private sector. But here, private sector organization like Japan Productivity Center, JUSE, provide a very much important role in this learning dissemination process. Now we would like to discuss some of the case study of the Japanese Development Corporation or Knowledge Corporation. I want to say one thing. One is that Japan doesn't have a specific assigned modality of knowledge cooperation. It is different from South Korea. For example, it has a knowledge sharing program, KSP, or Norway, Knowledge Bank, or Singapore International Cooperation Program. So various activities are embedded in the existing project and program. This is one of them. So Japan conduct policy dialogue with selected developing countries, with national leaders, if they are seriously committed. So it is one of the knowledge cooperation aiming at enhancing government policy capabilities based on continuous interactive partnership. And then we pay greater attention to the productive sectors compared to other donors. Maybe And then we jointly study industry situation and then think about which country to benchmark. Then dialogue details are customized to the unique needs and situation of the candidate country. So we don't have preset scheme. And it is often followed up by JICA's concrete cooperation project. And this is a selected list of Japanese policy dialogue. And in our book, we have focused on 4 case studies: Argentina, Vietnam, Thailand, and Ethiopia. But let me explain a little bit more about Ethiopia, where I myself have been a deep engagement in the past 15 years. We have conducted industrial policy dialogue with Ethiopian policy makers with the hope to support their transformation, translative adaptation process. So what we did was work together and agree on the critical policy issue for Ethiopia, such like Kaizen and FDI attraction or apparel sector the development, metal industry development. And then in view of the country's reality and our knowledge of developing countries, we have discussed which countries could be a model for benchmarking. And then we have organized third country studies, the seminars, we share some of the kind of country cases. Then we discuss with the Ethiopian policymakers, which is a common elements to be learned, introduced, and which should be unique aspect Ethiopia have to think about to create its own model. And then make a policy action. And then it was followed up partly by JICA. So we work with particularly Kaizen throughout policy dialogue. And we had a series of kind of dialogue with the key policy makers, initially with the top prime ministers, and then more in the minister level. And through that process, various projects have been also introduced in parallel, facilitating learning by doing process. And then we also discuss some of the constraints and challenges in the policy level. So this is what we did. Another example of case study is a skill development in chapter 6. This is that support to the public Tibet organization by JICA Technical Corporation. Mr. Mori worked out in the Hanoi University of Industry to how to enhance their engagement, private sector engagement in Tibet school. And then after surveying various models, that the Hanoi University of Industry chose the Japanese training methodologies, but with a localization, with awareness of their current capabilities and also extent of support they can receive from the industries. But even after the completion of the project, this Tibet school continued to customize the Japanese model. And then confidence built with accumulation of small success, step-by-step success, proved to be very, very important in this cooperation. However, there are challenges. Still that the government-wide dissemination is yet to be promoted. So I think we need to promote more of that awareness of the government recognition and support. There are another example, maybe because of time limit, I will only mention a little bit, but the private sector initiative, where in Thailand, those skill development, industrial technology have been introduced in a Thai way by Thai alumni who studied in Japanese engineering universities and also who received training by AOTS. AOTS is the NPO in charge of industrial, the human resource development in partnership with the private sector. And then those alumni came back to Thailand and set up NPO, Technology Promotion Association. And then collaboration took place by Japanese Thai industry, government institution, and academia. And they even created private universities, Tainichi Institute of Technology, for wider disseminating those learning from the young people. So this goes beyond the three-stage process of translative adaptation I mentioned. So it's wider technological education, and also they are now sharing these experiences internationally. In the last part, this is the finding of the case studies, passion for learning to industrialize, need for systematic and practical learning, learning as a dynamic process, public-private partnership, and role of development cooperation if properly implemented. But maybe I don't have a time to go in detail. This is the last two slides. So now that we are facing a new landscape, so what aspects have to change from the current approach? These are big issues because these new landscape include digital transformation, green, SDG, and then particularly with digital age, large volume of information flow with speed and standardization. And furthermore, there are many more partners are ready to share their catch-up experience, which is very good. But this relatively Japanese development experiences. So we need to adapt policy content and prioritization with speedy response. We need more cross-cutting perspective. And because the digitalization required that interaction with broader society and consumers. And Japan needs to find out what is our comparative advantages. At the same time, we feel like the methods for learning foreign model remain valid because this translative adaptation approach is important even more in 21st century because there's so much new standardized knowledge and technology are available. So each actor have to be mindful of how to internalize to the country or society-specific context. But to that, we need to upgrade its capacity for industrial cooperation to promote more co-learning, co-creation, and co-solving a problem because development challenges becomes very much complex beyond what today's advanced country learned or experienced before. So we need more co-learning, co-creation process. And I hope Japan can build working together with many partners, including today's partner from South Korea and Germany, intellectual networks with recent industrializers more systematically to be a facilitator of this translative adaptation process. Thank you very much for listening. Okay, so let me invite next that Mr. Kimiaki Jim. The chapters are related to promoting Kaizen in Africa. Jin-san is a chief advisor of the JICA-supported quality and productivity improvement Kaizen project in South Africa. So he is now from South Africa, Pretoria. And he has rich experience and knowledge of Kaizen promotion in Africa through operation and research. Before going to South Africa, he was Senior Assistant Director of JICA Ogata Research Institute and Economic Development Department of JICA. So Jin-san, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So my title is Promoting Kaizen in Africa. Well, I want to explain, first I want to explain the outline of what JICA is doing in terms of Kaizen promotion in Africa. And then after that, I want to pick up several key points as the analysis and implication presented by the book. So, sorry, let me adjust. So, So Kaizen in Africa, JICA has been quite active to promote quality and productivity improvement, or Kaizen, in Africa since mid or late 2000. And also, JICA is now collaborating with AUDA-NEPAD, Africa Union Development Agency, to implement Africa Kaizen Initiative, which is a multinational initiative from 2017 for 10 years. And recently, JICA published the strategy for Africa Kaizen Initiative in the last year in order to show their commitment to SDG 8, which is decent for promotion of decent work and economic growth, and also SDG 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So first, as I said, I want to explain the outline, but based on the chapter 4, 7, and 9 of the book, I also want to discuss the character of this cooperation. This is a figure indicating the project focusing on Kaizen, or quality and productivity improvement. You can find the big number of the project in Africa. Well, this figure excludes the project focusing on the specific sectors such as automotive or tool making, and also excluding Kaizen in health sector or JOCB activities, but focusing on the private sector development. And this is a map showing the countries involved in Kaizen promotion. The country in red are the countries that JICA implemented or is implementing technical cooperation project, including South Africa, where I'm staying now. And the yellow countries are the ones who join in the training activity in Japan or third countries. Then this is the website I picked up in order to show the activity of AUDA-NEPAD. This is the website for Africa Kaizen Initiative, and you can find the URL on the top so that you can check it. So the Africa Kaizen Initiative started from 2017 with 5 keys, it has 5 key strategies. One is advocating the policy level, encouraging national government to mainstream Kaizen at the national policy level. And second one is to standardize Kaizen. Then third one is creation of center of excellence. Fourth one is networking of Kaizen promoting in organization. And the fifth one is the African industrialization and the African continental free trade agreement or areas. So stakeholders of the AKI include many countries, but for Africa Kaizen Award, 21 institutions in 16 countries are registered, well, including member organizations of Pan-African Productivity Associations. So under the framework of Africa Kaizen Initiative, Africa Kaizen Annual Conferences are organized once a year since 2016. And conferences are rotated by the hosting countries in different African countries. Last year, Ethiopia hosted the conference in August. Another interesting activity is to provide the Africa Kaizen Award to the good performer of the Kaizen in Africa in the manufacturing sector or private sector. So the awarding ceremony is organized at the Africa Kaizen Annual Conference, and the examination committee published the evaluation criteria to the practitioners so that they can understand what kind of practices are appreciated. And well, selection process are also joint process of examination committee and scholars from nominating organizations. And the evaluation committee renewed the scoring process and evaluation criteria in the last year, in the fifth year of operation. So that awarding process is also a kind of continuous system of improving the one. Then the initiative also organized a working group to focus on the criteria, system of the consultant, and the standardization and the key performance indicators, institutionalization of the conference and award, and the creation of center of excellence. So, well, members of this working group consist of the representative from the member organization. So this working group activity is really the driving force to improve the Kaizen activity in Africa. And then this is the clip of the first page of Strategy for Africa Kaizen Initiative published by JICA in order to commit to the global development goals. You can find the link to download the strategies. So then why Kaizen in Africa? And why JICA is so strongly promoting Kaizen in Africa is one of the points I want to discuss. In 1990s, Africa was called economy without growth. So especially in the first half of 1990s, the economy was even shrinking per capita. So development focus was more on, especially in supported by the development partners in the health sector, education sector, and the security of food security. But in 2000, African economies start growing, and sub-Saharan African economy grew 5.7% from 2000 to 2008. So then agenda is shifting to the private sector development or economic growth. Even in TICAD 4 in 2008, key focus was on boosting economic growth, important role of private sector, and so on. And furthermore, in 2010, African leaders prioritized structural transformation of the economy in Africa, from shifting from agriculture-based to industry or service-based economy. And the Continental Free Trade Agreement was also the agenda. So following those, in conjunction with those major trends, JICA has been supporting Kaizen in Africa. Then what is the relation with the book of we published with Kaizen? First point I want to focus is learning by doing. As one of the key characters of Japanese development cooperation, learning by doing or hands-on approach is very valuable. So even for the promotion of Kaizen, we don't really provide the knowledge to the consultants only, but we really want to create the practical opportunity to test and implement, and then standardize those Kaizen training. So in the training activities, after the several days of classroom training, actually our consultant, who join in our training, means the people in the recipient side, visit the company and actually organize a session with workplace leader of the manufacturing companies. Then analyze the challenges or bottlenecks of their businesses, and then further analyze the root cause of the problems, so that they can create the effective countermeasures. Then through the implementation and also through the monitoring of key performance indicators, we can examine the effectiveness. Then if it's effective, the new process can be standardized in the production line. And these program takes between 3 to 6 months. So through the training activities, both consultant and also private business entity can learn how to implement the Kaizen activities. And in the book, there are key critical factors mentioned in chapter 4 and chapter 7. Chapter 4 written by Professor Ohno and Getahun Mekonen. And then chapter 7 is written by Dr. Kikuchi. There were 6 factors, but common, the indicated in blue color are common one in 2 factors, and the red one is slightly different. But I want to discuss on the 3 points. First one is national commitment. National commitment for the quality and productivity improvement is important. And the second one is institutional infrastructure or organizational infrastructure. And the third one is standardization, standardized training or customization, which is slightly different between these 2 chapters, but I want to touch upon. So national commitment is quite important. Of course, it's probably easy to understand. In the case of Japan, Kaizen promotion of quality and productivity improvement was a national agenda, which was especially in the post-war reconstruction period, as Professor Ohno mentioned. Then in Singapore and Ethiopia, written in chapter 4, there's very strong leadership of the Prime Minister, initiated by Prime Minister. In the case of Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, and in case of Ethiopia, Meles Zenawi. So those strong leadership and national commitment really create a good output. But if we don't have such inspired national leaders, what should we do? And then one of the key points is that through the collaboration with the outer NEPAD, where JICA is promoting the policy advocacy. Outer NEPAD is very good at the policy advocacy. And also, of course, on the other hand, we have to create concrete evidence. So by organizing impact assessment and also quantitative evidence. That is national commitment. And then regarding the translative adaptation, I picked up 3 points. First point is about sensitivity to the people, the behavior. Actually, Kaizen is based on the statistical quality control learned from Western society, Europe and also America. But through the process of introducing this statistical quality control system, Japan developed the Kaizen through combining scientific mechanical approach with social participatory incremental approach, because it's not easy for the people to accept such a foreign model. So Kaizen includes such a participatory, gradual, and incremental approach, such as participatory 5S. 5S is housekeeping methodology, which is well known. And then other suggestion system or small group activities. So Kaizen itself has sensitivity to adjust into the system in the recipient side. And even LJ Fourier mentioned that this Kaizen approach is low modality based on the combination of participatory democratic approach and economic productivity. Second point is institutional issue. Institutional setting is in the is in the most cases path dependent. So each country has different institutions. In Ethiopia, there's no Kaizen promoting organization, so that Meles Zenawi, Prime Minister, then Prime Minister, created the Ethiopian Kaizen Institute. And in case of Tunisia, there are many industry-specific technical center. So Kaizen is promoting under the collaboration of these technical centers. And in chapter 7, Kikuchi mentioned that in order to develop the Kaizen skill in advanced level, we need to learn from the sector-specific inherent technology, so that the Tunisian type of network approach is more appropriate for learning advanced level Kaizen. So, and also in South Africa, because of so many organizations promoting Kaizen business support, South African government created a National Quality and Productivity Network with 8 organizations and promoting Kaizen. The last point is about the relation with the recent age of technological development, especially in digital technologies. Kaizen is continuous improvement, and there are many offspring, such as the argument on the grit. Grit is the concept of passion and the perseverance of the people who can create the success. Then, according to the author of the book, Angela Duckworth, all of the grit parable exude Kaizen. So that is one point. And then second point is about Duig. He analyzed the good performer of the team in Google, and then found that psychological safety is an important factor for the creative work. But psychological safety is a kind of concept based on the Toyota production system, because Toyota production system has a famous tool called Andon, which is anybody can stop the line if he or she found a problem, but not the only leaders or supervisors or game performer. So that is a flat system, and then that system can be workable under the psychological safety. And there are some other things, but especially in the digital era, because many works to be calculated by the machine will be replaced by the computer, but not calculable issues such as teamwork, communication, and the perseverance of the people are the value of the people even under the digital era. So through Kaizen approach, we can develop those non-cognitive skills. That is my argument in the chapter 9. So the point is that the Kaizen can further evolve in the context of South Africa, or African continent, and also globalization and digital transformation. So that is the daily effort we are trying to do. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jin-san, for your the presentation on Kaizen and other related chapters. Here, just follow up this presentation, we would like to share the video message of Mr. Getafun Tatesemekonen. He is the co-author of the chapter 4, and Getafun-san is a certified principal Kaizen consultant in Ethiopia. And As the first director of Ethiopia Kaizen Institute, he played a key role in introducing Kaizen by adapting the Japanese model to the Ethiopian context. So let's listen to him how he did it. Yeah, could you show the video?
Well, the introduction of Kaizen to Ethiopia is the initiative of the government of Ethiopia requesting the government of Japan. Thanks to JICA, they sent us Japanese experts who educated us on the Kaizen tool systems and the principles starting from 2009 up to now. But in the process, since the training by Japanese experts is basically based on examples and experience of automotive, electronics, and electrical industries, and ours is different from that, so we try to customize those trainings with respect to textile, agro-industry, construction, TVET, and so on. The Japanese way is based on a private sector or private institution leading the transfer and the development of Kaizen. The model of Japan is three phases or three steps model, learning from Western management technologies, adapting and innovating to suit the situation of Japan, and disseminating those through those private sectors. So the prime movers were the private institutions. With respect to Ethiopia, it is a public-led movement. It is the government which initiated as a technical support provided to private sector to fill the gap. So basically, our model is based on five steps. The first one is testing. Testing is learning from the Japanese through classroom training and in-company training. Then institutionalized those trainings. Institutionalized means basically making those trainings institutional memory and make sure that all consultants understood. And then implement. The implementation phase is implementing or disseminating the Kaizen without the help of foreign experts. Owning, by owning means basically customizing and adapting the foreign management technology we learned with the Ethiopian culture. And finally, sustaining us through institutionalization, awards, rewards, and so on. These are the basic ways, and rather than calling difference, ways of Japanese and Ethiopia. I worked one chapter with Professor Izumi on the success factors of Kaizen or quality and productivity movements in Japan, Singapore, basically to learn lessons that could be adapted to African. From my side and the Ethiopian side, I will concentrate on three things. On partner part, there should be commitment at all levels. Commitment at the policymakers, the political leaders, institutions that is committed to disseminate Kaizen. For example, in my case, we have established Ethiopian Kaizen Institute, which is dedicated and committed to learn the management technologies and to disseminate in Ethiopian companies and institutions. So commitment is basic. The second one is institutionalizing the knowledge. Institutionalizing the knowledge means learning and preparing standard training materials, evaluation materials, performance evaluation materials, and to institutionalize those things throughout the institutions so that every consultant and every management level could understand easily and implement. The third important thing is sustaining, not to fall back. Sustaining mechanism are many. For example, rewarding recognitions, encouraging companies to to go from one stage to another stage. In order to do that, for sustaining, we have divided Kaizen into 3 levels: basic Kaizen, advanced Kaizen, and comprehensive Kaizen, from simple to complex, so that the company started with basic Kaizen has to move through all these 3. That's the way we have succeeded. These are 3 important factors for developing countries and Africa countries, really basically to start and sustain Kaizen initiative. From donor side, basically it is taking into consideration the situation of the partner country. That is very important while designing the project.
Okay. So I hope that you have a better understanding of translative adaptation from his real experience. So next, let me move to the second part of the program, comment by international expert. We are very honored to have 2 distinguished researchers on knowledge cooperation from South Korea and Germany. Let me introduce them. The first discussant is Dr. Junhei Sao, Senior Fellow Emeritus, Korea Development Institute, KDI. Dr. Sao has distinctive career as an economist with deep interest in the relationship between technological change and economic development. He was also senior policy maker at the Korea's Ministry of Planning and Budget, charged with interministerial tasks for the implementation of Korea's Vision 2030. As well as he was engaged in various international projects as World Bank Knowledge Economy Project and OECD's National Innovation System Studies. Second discussant is Dr. Stefan Klingebel. He is the head of Inter and Transnational Cooperation Research Program at the German Institute of Development Sustainability, IDOS, formerly GDI, German Development Institute. Dr. Klingebel also teaches at a number of universities in South Korea, India, Germany, Italy, and many other places. I should mention that he is familiar with the South Korean situation, and he is a visiting professor at the IFA Women's University, the Graduate School for International Studies. And he was also director of the UNDP Global Policy Center in Seoul in 2019 and 21. And I remember that at that time I think he visited the JICA Ogata Research Institute for international conference. And also we had various occasions to work together. So we are very happy to have you together. So let me welcome Dr. Su first. The floor is yours.
Professor Ohno, thank you very much. And personally, I was very pleased to be invited to this seminar. And also, I greatly appreciate your decision to make this book open access, and everyone can learn from this book. And the book is full of many good examples. And for many years, if you see this book is about published about 40 years ago by Masaaki Imai.
Yes.
It's always at my office, and this book covers many good, interesting points that Kaizen in Japanese companies. And your book shows how this important concept can be applied to the context of international development cooperation. I was very, very surprised, and in that sense, I heartily make congratulations on your book publication. And reading your presentation and the book, many interesting things, but I want to just mention 2 things. First one, I already mentioned that I was very surprised to see how the concept Kaizen or Japan's way of productivity improvement can be applied in different contexts. In that regard, Korea has learned a lot from Japan's experiences, and then we try to our own. And also, these experiences raise very, very important fundamental question already mentioned by Professor Ohno's slide and also Mr. Jin's slide. The basic question is how to apply this kind of concept in the age of new technology, especially digital transformation, green transformation, and artificial intelligence. And we face very similar challenges when we are working with the other developing countries under the name of knowledge sharing program. Next slide, please. Yes. Japan and Korea share the same background and historical legacy. There is the very strong government and good at the make planning. This we share also with China or Taiwan. Many East Asian model of state-led development emphasize and had the benefit on government leadership. Many today's developing countries are not that much prepared to be led by the state or the government. So we face many difficulties in how to empower those actors, not only in the private sector, but also those who are in charge of development planning and policy planning. And personally, I'm doing with 2 countries in Central Asia and Eastern Europe. And they raise many, many interesting questions. And next slide, please. Yes. This graph shows 20-year history of Korea's KSU program. This year celebrates the 20th anniversary of this program. And it started very small number of projects. Now it totaled about 700 projects for 20 years. Below the slide, you can see top 5 most in-demand sectors. For example, science and technology and R&D are the leading demand from almost all developing countries. And public administration is about how to empower public bodies in policy making. And financial policies in very micro level, they also face many difficulties, not only in terms of shortage of funds, but also to the management skills. All those are not Korea, for example, have been good in past years during the period of industrialization. So in that sense, we are on the same frontier. We means Korea, Japan, and other developing countries. Next slide, please. So the Mr. Jin's slide also talked about the innovation ecosystem, and previous video from Ethiopia was very, very interesting and amazing because they already made their own adaptations and learning from their own perspective from Japanese experiences or any other advanced experiences. Previous speaker video shows that in case of the absence of state leadership, who will be the leader? And also Mr. Jin also mentioned briefly about this point. This is very critical whenever we are trying to implement any ideas from donor countries to development practices. And also Ethiopian example is very impressive to me because Ethiopian case emphasized the role of public institutions. Mostly in advanced countries, we are very adapted to use the concept of business enterprises or private enterprises. Those are very active and big actors. In case of those weak private enterprises, who will do the roles? And also the previous Ethiopian case also very clearly mentioned the role led by public institutions. Underlying all those things, we are facing this age of digital transformation and artificial intelligence. Machines can embed many routine, not only routine and cognitive processes, and that means we are challenging new phases in economic development. Korea, and we learned from Japan in terms of industrialization. I'm not sure how we can cope with the new challenges in the age of digital transformation and artificial intelligence. In this sense, probably more wider context, including civil societies and universities and any other sectors, will be very, very important to make national innovation system effective. This is a lot different from Korea's past experiences. In that sense, I greatly appreciate the publication of the book and also the presentation of the previous 3 speakers. And I want to share in any cases and any experience with you. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. So, for the excellent comments. So let me invite Dr. Gringerel. Stefan, please. Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Ohno. And yeah, first of all, congratulations, Professor Ohno, your co-editors and also the authors to the book. This is really a great achievement. And it was already mentioned, it's open access, but I think this is part of the conceptual debate to make knowledge available. So open access is really a key aspect. And I was just checking, you have already 16,000 downloads, 16,000 downloads. So really congratulations. Let me make a few remarks on the substance. So first of all, and this is just a reminder to all of us because we know it, knowledge is fundamental. It's fundamental for industrial development. It was very fundamental in managing COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah, I remember at that time I was based in Korea, and for example, many German public institutions were turning to Korea, to Japan, to learn about from their experiences. So we find it everywhere. And what I also typically like to do is to go back to some root discussions on those fundamental things like knowledge. And you might be aware that more than 2,400 years ago, Aristoteles in Greece, he developed a concept of knowledge, and he distinguished 3 main dimensions. One is knowledge of craft, so how to create a machine, for example, how to build it. A second dimension, scientific knowledge. That's about the understanding of things which already exist in the universe. Yeah, so our mathematical understanding, those things. And the third dimension, ethical knowledge, to act in a certain manner with the aim of good life. So, for example, it is wrong to lie, and this was also part of his knowledge understanding. What I want to say is, and in a way we could even do it during the discussion, and this brings me to my next point. Looking at your main conceptual pillars, you find a lot of parallels to what Aristoteles was already saying, and sometimes this is helpful to remind us of basic concepts. So, in a way, and this is really just in a nutshell how I'm looking at your important book, or I mean it's even a series of 3 books. Your concept about learning for development with policy and societal learning. This is great. Kaizen is an important and very influential concept. Translative adaptation, policy dialogue with committed partners. This is also the bridge to development cooperation. And homegrown solutions. And homegrown solutions, you might know this term is quite often, for example, also used by Rwandan institutions. That's also the adaptation of knowledge. So what I want to say is you make a big conceptual splash. This is important, but also your case studies are great. Let me just make few remarks, comments based on my practical experiences, but also based on my research. And this is, I think, to some extent, a slightly different framing to what you are saying, but it's rather confirming many things you are saying. So first of all, and looking at the debate, I think we all know that what is called tacit knowledge, silent knowledge, is a very important thing. Let me just one brief anecdote. I remember in In Rwanda, you mentioned already, Rwanda has the only South-South cooperation agency, bilateral South-South cooperation agency in sub-Saharan Africa, because many countries are turning to Rwanda. And what is interesting, I spoke to one delegation, and they were saying, we are coming from a country where our sector law is probably even much more good than what we see in Rwanda, but how it's done in Rwanda is different and much better. And it's difficult to pick up what is it. And this is the tacit or the silent knowledge that, and I think Polanyi was saying, the fact that we can know more than we can tell is a very important one. Yeah, we know more than we can tell. And this is for our conceptual understanding, I think, something what is very, very important. My next small remark is, and Professor Ohno, I'm glad you also mentioned or made a comment on this. Typically, we are talking about knowledge transfer, and I think very often we need transfer. If I want to learn Japanese language, I need a teacher to teach me. But very often, teaching is probably not the right modality, because in development cooperation, we have partner institutions, and they have already knowledge. So teaching might be not the best modality. So this is why I typically like this knowledge interaction term, or you were saying knowledge co-creation, which is probably even better. So co-creation. And to think about what are practical consequences, one could be, I mean, we did a study on several knowledge modalities, as you know, from several institutions. And what is interesting in development cooperation, typically actors are claiming we also want to learn from other countries, but in reality, you hardly find any examples. So typically, it's still too much dominated by a teaching approach. So how can Germany, if we want to share our knowledge, also pick up something, and how to bring it back? I mean, this is looking at Japan, maybe even Korea and other countries. I think typically our implicit concept is still too much about the transfer. We transfer something from A to B. What is also, I think, important to understand, and I know you know it, but knowledge cooperation, interaction is also very much about power relations. I mean, development cooperation is also about power relations. So we have one actor, typically this actor has more resources than the other actor. And this is also influencing how knowledge cooperation can work. What I typically also love to do is to get a better understanding in the field of development cooperation. What would partner countries typically do if we are not using development cooperation to support knowledge cooperation? And I mean, one interesting fact, looking at many African countries, Rwanda, but also beyond Rwanda, those countries would typically not go to European countries to learn about poverty reduction, industrial development, or whatever. They would typically go to East Asian countries, the Southeast Asian countries, Rwanda, typically Singapore. Singapore, South Korea, China. So, and the fact that many countries are not turning to European countries or to the US, I think Japan is a bit in between, I would say. This is in a way something what is important, I would say, and this should also influence our conceptual thinking, but also how we are organizing development cooperation in this regard. My next point just briefly is about, and I like this knowledge modalities. So knowledge modalities in terms of what is the function of knowledge interaction. It might be quite different in terms of capacity development, policy advisory, networking, policy dialogue. It's also important in terms of modality formats, so study visits, training programs, labs, sending experts. Oh, this reminds me 10 minutes up. So, but to compare a bit, what are our options in this regard, and what do we know from several actors? I think we still do not really use different experiences from different knowledge institutions, knowledge providers, and this kind of comparison of modalities would be helpful. The final quick point. Congratulations again. Would be great. You could also bring your experiences with the book to Europe and North America. I was just reflecting also a bit on OECD, DAC. You might remember a few years back, the DAC was considering to introduce knowledge cooperation as a third main modality beside financial cooperation, technical cooperation, to have something like knowledge cooperation. So could be also quite nice to do something jointly in Paris and to inform the audience there. Thank you so much again for inviting me. Back to you, Professor Ohno.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It's a very nice words, because I think we could really, because you have been also working with the knowledge modalities, and also KDI has celebrated 20 years of its experience in now moving forward. So maybe we could jointly work together for like a OECD or whatever in really broadening that our horizon and also modality of knowledge cooperation. So thank you very much. So then we will move to the third part of the program, so discussion session with the expert and the audience. So from now, I will hand over to Mr. Dr. Junichi Mori to moderate the session. So he is another editor of the book and author. So his expertise is skill development in developing countries. So until recently, Mori-san was a chief technical advisor of the ILO Skills for Prosperity program in Malaysia. Now he's based in Lebanon. He's very international. And also he was with us at the JICA Research Institute, and also he was a JICA expert in Vietnam for Hanoi University of Industry. So let Mori-san to handle this discussion.
Thank you very much, Professor Ohno. Good evening or good afternoon or good morning for all. And then I'm very pleased to be part of this great event. I hope my voice is clear. So now I'd like to introduce two panelists, and then let me just, and then the co-authors or author of the book. Two people, Mr. Toru Honma and then Mr. Kimiaki Amatsu. I appreciate if you can, both of you can turn on your video too. So let me introduce them. Mr. Honma first. Mr. Honma has been working as a senior advisor on the private sector development at the JICA since 2010. He's currently working as a senior advisor to the CEO of the African Union Development Agency, so-called NEPAD. Then he has been contributing to the industrial development in the various countries and regions, such as Myanmar, Indonesia, and Africa. So he has a very in-depth experience, practical experience in Africa and then Asia. So I hope Mr. Honma is here. And then let me also introduce Mr. Amatsu first. So Mr. Kimiaki Amatsu is one of the editors of this book. And then he has been leading the industrial policy team of this research project directed by Professor Ohno. Mr. Amatsu worked as a resident representative of the JICA United Kingdom office until very recent, and then he has roughly 30 years of experience working at JICA. He's been working currently in a JICA Kyushu Center. So he has been engaged in the various areas of the development cooperation in the different regions, including private sector development, governance, and aid effectiveness. And he covered Asia and Africa, like Mr. Honma. So without further ado, I'd like to ask a kickoff comment from both of you, Mr. Honma and then Mr. Amatsu. So I'd like to ask Mr. Honma go first, and then next Mr. Amatsu. Mr. Honma, are you ready? If so, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Mori. Morrison, my voice is clear?
Yes.
All right, thank you very much. As introduced, my name is Toru Honma from AUDA, Nevada African Union Development Agency. Senior advisor to the CEO and as well as senior advisor on private sector development in JICA. So, because the time constraints, I would like to make my comments very brief. Anyway, so myself is based in South Africa, where AUDA Nevada is. But at the moment, I'm on mission in Kenya. I'm from Nairobi today. Yes. So, the AUDA Nevada and JICA has been have the collaboration in the 10 years or even more. And so we have 5 areas of collaboration, and one of them is Africa Kaizen Initiative, AKI, which Mr. Jin has been presented. And another one is, there's another one, so-called homegrown solutions. I have heard these words today several times. I think this is also matching with the topic. So I also, first of all, as one of the author, co-author of the book and the chapter writer, thank you very much for those who participated in this webinar. And also I have learned from Stefan that already 16,000 downloads. So thank you very much for that. And as the author of the chapter 10, New Industrial Landscape, so it is also the implications for industrial policy and Japanese Industry Development Corporation. So in particular, from that aspect, I'd like to do some kind of complementary the comments for the 2 presentators. And also before that, as well, we have also good the 2 discussants words, comments. So first by Dr. Su. So I'm very much encouraged in a certain sense that Korea has also shared the same challenges under the current digital transformation age in terms of our development cooperation. So, and also I also learned from Dr. Stefan that yes, about the teaching is no longer appropriate, but the co-creation should be better. So this is exactly what we have been working on it. So I'm also very much encouraged from his words. And he mentioned about the OECD DAC is working on that stuff about knowledge cooperation has been highlighted. I used to work in OECD, so from that aspect, I also do like something like the co-work, co-creation in these aspects. So finally, so I'd like to raise 3 complementary points, 3 points. The first one about the mega trends as a background of this the chapter. So already digitalization is highly highlighted, especially so including the digital transformation and especially from the aspects of industry, the 4th industrial revolution or industry 4.0. And also among that, especially Internet of Things and artificial intelligence. Yes, but not only that. So there are a lot of megatrends. I classified for 4. The first one is this digitalization, and the second one is globalization, further globalization. So global value chain has been advanced, developed, and integrated, penetrated in every corner in the world. And also, yes, the mega FTAs are around. So these also changing the big picture of industrialization. The third topic is the global external shock no need to say the COVID-19. So of course, that changes the industrial picture a lot. But not only that, so there are a lot of the recent the crisis conflicts. So these heavily affect. And finally, but not least, the environment and social aspects. So green growth, carbon neutral, SDGs, whatever. So these make us when we consider what the industrial policy, it's complicated and the need is more speedy and diversification, and also the rapid and disruption changes always concurrently. So we need to consider all these. So, and also knowledge can be accessed easily than before. In that sense, now I'm going to second point, what is necessary. Again, so we emphasize the co-learning, learning together. We are not the one who owns the knowledge. Both sides have the knowledges, and co-creation and co-solving solution also we can make together, side by side, not one direction. So in this sense, what is important is the facilitation. Facilitation role is very important. So how to make not only 1 + 1, 2, but more than that. And so how to accumulate experience effectively or efficiently. So experience accumulation. So this kind of facilitation role and experience accumulation, these are very important. I think, and this come across with the idea of translative adaptation. So learning, adaptation, internalization, customization, implementation, then scale up. So I think this may make more sense in the area of the current area. And third point, last point. So among that, so the Kaizen, again, I would like to take again the Kaizen. So as Mr. Jin already mentioned, there are a lot of defects, especially, for example, non-cognitive skills he raised, which are more recognized for digital area. I'd like to add some more. The Kaizen itself is the originated by the statistical quality control, STC. That means from the origin, it has a nature of data, so data-driven. And also the data sharing. That is also the idea of through the QC circle, whatever. And visualization. All these come to the digitalization or fourth industrial revolution. So there's some kind of affinity. In that sense, Kaizen may work under that in the current situation. And the secondary, the incremental innovation. So Kaizen is recently considered as used to be considered as the enemy of innovation or a different part of innovation, but so it is now considered as incremental innovation. That is another idea which raised in several years. And also it makes the form or the basis of innovation, so to complement from the management side. And finally, it contributes to the social consideration, because there are a lot of social aspects, the human-centered bottom-up approach. That means the inclusiveness may come to also the concept. Sorry, I stop here. Thank you very much. Back to you, Dr. Mori-san.
Yeah, thank you very much, Honma-san. Very comprehensive comment in limited time. I really want to echo your comment, like importance of the co-creation, importance of the facilitation. Actually, it's very high-skilled work. Maybe I want to hear more about what to be necessary for foreign expert or the counterpart side. And then also the importance or relevance of the Kaizen, even for the digital transformation age. And then finally, it is really important about the social consideration or social inclusion. I really echo that comment. And then also the incremental innovation. Thank you, Honma-san. I'll come back to you, but in the meantime, I want to ask also the kickoff comment from the Mr. Amatsu. Mr. Amatsu, are you ready? If so, floor is ready for you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your kind introduction about including my experience in 30 years in JICA, and also my experience in JICA UK. And also, I'm very glad to see very familiar name in the UK, including the University of Leeds and also ITS Sussex. and also British Embassy in Tokyo. Thank you very much for your participation. I'd like to argue the upstream issues, that is the vision issues. As Professor Ohno said, so this translative adaptation concept includes various issues from the vision, strategy, policy instrument, and implementation stage. But sometimes, so this upstream issue, including the vision, so would affect the more downstream so practices seriously. Therefore, I'd like to focus on these issues. And so sometimes, so each countries and each national leaders try to launch the industrialization vision in the initial stage. But sometimes this is affected by nationalistic motivation and also sometimes issues. But the vision is vision. It means a vision does not reflect realities sometimes. The key point here is so how each countries can reduce the gap between the visions, ambitions, and reality of each target industry, in this case, industrialization or manufacturing sector. But probably in the case of successful industrializer, those successful industrializer, including Korea, Taiwan, and also Singapore and other East Asian nations, so could do it in the short term relatively, and also at the initial stage of its industrialization. But the key here is how did Meiji Japan, in my case, reduce this gap in the initial stage, and what worked and what did not. That is very important. So this important experience is very sometimes useful for lower income economies, which are in a transition stage, upgrading to more higher income levels. But so what is a very important issue? That's another important issue. But probably Meiji Japan's experience tells us various things. So first one is seriousness of national leaders towards industrialization. That is very important precondition. And second thing is strong interest of those national leaders in industrialization or each industry. That is also very important. And third is accumulation efforts of industrial knowledge and skills within the government sector. That is also very important. Otherwise, each private sector or production sector people may not be able to talk about the industrialization with government counterpart with the same wording and same logic. And also, flexibility is very important because in the case of the each developing countries, including the Japan at the age of Meiji Japan era, usually those countries would face some difficult challenges, but sometimes macroeconomic challenges or instabilities. Those error correction factors sometimes tells us the necessity of policy change. Therefore, when this error correction factor emerge, how can we respond to those factors? If they are forced to change the policy direction after this policy error correction realized, probably that would create very disastrous consequence of industrialization. But before this error correction factor performed seriously, then if each country can successfully change the policy discourse, that is induce them to for a better way, realistic way. Therefore, how we can do this, that is very important. In the case of the seriousness of national leaders, Stefan Dargon, he is a professor of Oxford, he wrote one very interesting book titled Gambling on Development. This is also tells us the importance of commitment of national leaders. Therefore, as I said repeatedly, seriousness and also strong interest of national leaders in industrialization or industrial sector, that's very important. But probably in the current context, manufacturer-led industrialization process is not a single solution for lower income countries, including sub-Saharan African countries. But despite the difference of target sectors, probably this seriousness seriousness or strong interest. But sometimes it is about digital, or it's about agriculture processing or anything else. Those are very important for smooth process of translative adaptation. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Amatsu-san, and then very interesting to know about your perspective about the vision and reality is not always identical, and then how to reduce the gap. And then commitment, importance of commitment of the national leaders. Thank you so much. So I just wonder if we have enough time for the Q&A, but Professor Ohno, can we just take a few questions?
Yeah, maybe we can extend a little bit. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So maybe
10 minutes?
yeah, okay, I want to take questions from the Africa. So one question from the participant from Africa is maybe to the either Jin-san and then Honma-san, then both. So how this book is relevant to Africa? Actually, you already presented about your perspective, but I appreciate if you can elaborate a bit more. So how this book is relevant to Africa, and then what will be the potential benefit and challenges introducing foreign models to Africa? Jin-san already explained like Kaizen is relevant in Africa, but it's good if we can add some more comment. Maybe shall we start from Honma-san, then move to Jin-san?
Yeah.
Hello?
Thank you, Mori-san.
Yes,
can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yes. I didn't mention really about Africa itself when I spoke, but many of the parts. So as we kicked off the discussions, that's no longer so. This is one way, but so we do what we are doing is a co-creation, and in that sense, in anywhere. So two partners meet. So both sides bring their resources, their ideas, their challenges, and their solutions. That makes the advancement. So in that sense, that applies to anywhere. In the case of Africa, but on the other hand, Africa has a lot of challenges, honestly said, compared with other regions. But that means, and again, so challenge, there's a challenge and solution. So these processes are the same. So whether the examples or cases which we can bring that may be a little bit different, but it could be okay. So in the case of, for example, Africa Kaizen Initiative, maybe so Jin-san may have a better comment on that. So this is what we are doing. Actually, so we can find at the beginning solutions from out of Africa. But currently what we are doing is already accumulated internally inside the initiative or internally Africa, and already originated idea, customized solutions have been born within our initiatives. That makes, that applies to in Africa as well. And so I don't go into details, but for example, digitalization, the leapfrog or reverse engineering, Kenya's M-Pesa, because I'm in Kenya right now. So these advanced technologies born in Africa. So I stopped my argument here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honma-san. So Jin-san, could you also respond to this question?
Yeah, thank you very much. I presented on a Kaizen issue, but so in relation with Kaizen, I can expand my argument a bit more. Basically, in the current change of the development technologies and digitalization, of course, we have to learn what we can do based on those new technologies. So adoption of the technology is a kind of a must, but how we can really introduce those technologies like DX or digitalization, it's not easy for majority of African private sector to invest a big money to transform the factory to industrial 4.0, a smart factory, which is advocated by German. But definitely after that, so what we are promoting is a kind of do-it-yourself. We need to introduce a sensor or a scanner or even smartphone to collect the data and accumulate in the cyberspace. So, but we have to find a concrete way what actual people can do by introducing do-it-yourself. That's a technical part. But another part is that we also have to think about the people's mindset. Actually, what Getafen-san in Ethiopia told to me, actually, I was in Ethiopia for in total 10 years, and I'm very good friend of Getafen. And he told me that the Kaizen is the mindset change. And so what is a mindset we want to, communicate and try to make adjustment. Well, in Africa, time management system is linear than flexible. And work is not task-based, but relation-based. Those are the points discussed by the mayor, I think the culture, well, also culture map. And then sense of refinement and elaboration is another point. So through the communication with other knowledge outside of the country, people can review those cultural value and try to not a drastic change, but to try to learn some from the abroad. That is my comment.
Okay, thank you very much, Jin-san. Since you're on stage, so I'd like to ask another question to you, if it is possible. A question from a participant from Mozambique. Maybe you can also see our chat. So he mentioned about the difficulty to obtain a private finance to conduct a Kaizen. So, and then how to conduct a Kaizen or how to secure the finance to conduct a Kaizen. That's basically point of his question. Actually, you already partially answered to this question, like do-it-yourself is very important. But Jin-san, could you give us your thought on these challenges too?
Yeah, thank you very much. Yes, well, in my understanding, the Kaizen is a very comprehensive structure of knowledge system. So they are very basic one and very advanced one. Advanced one is like Toyota production system and lean production, which is the top of the manufacturing technologies. But you can also find 5S, Muda elimination, or quality QC story, quality control story to identify the problem and then they make small countermeasures. So they are, without the big financial support, you can do a lot of things and then start from the very basic and then upgrade your activity. But during that process, you can appeal what you have achieved through basic Kaizen approach to the fund providers, financiers. And that is one of the points we are trying to do, even in South Africa. We are collaborating with Automotive Industry Transformation Fund. So good performer of the Kaizen can apply to the Transformation Fund. So that kind of relation we have to create. That is what we are doing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jin-san. I think your comment also is related to the incremental innovation emphasized by the Honma-san. Probably making an incremental innovation may also increase the financial opportunity too. That's I know what that is what you're practicing. So thank you, Jin-san. Professor Ohno, can I ask a few questions to the Professor Su? You can stop me if your time is up. So I want to ask, taking my position, I want to ask a few questions to the Dr. Su and then Dr. Kingbill. Is that okay for two of you?
Yes.
So thank you so much. Dr. Su, your presentation is very interesting. And then thank you for the explaining the importance of knowledge sharing in the age of the digital transformations. So actually recently I joined an event organized by the Korean government and the ILO. I learned about a very interesting program for the digital educations in Korea. So I just want to ask, you mentioned about the knowledge share importance. How can we share experience of the Korea, particularly about digital transformation to the other countries? Like we already got the question about the financial difficulty that may be applied to the many countries. You already mentioned, but it's very important to involve civil society organization, other stakeholders. I think it's a very good point. But I appreciate if you do you want to add some comment, like how Korea is sharing the experience about digital transformation with other countries at this moment.
Thank you very much for your questions. And last January, I've been to Dushanbe, Tajikistan. Tajikistan is one of backward countries in the Central Asia. And the Tajikistan government asked us, Korea, to give an advice to how to diversify industrial structure. And mostly Tajikistan economy is based on mining sector and remittance from abroad. And the manufacturing base is very weak. And to make a long story short, last January, we made a site visit to many young generation entrepreneurs. And they were well educated, very small number of Tajikistan young generation who are very fluent in English and good at their computer skills. They created very small startups majoring in, specialized in artificial intelligence, AI technologies. AI technologies, there are many common available tools to be applied to anywhere in the world. They created very small specialized firm, what is called AI fintech company, to give us a service to credit card companies in Tajikistan. It was very, very surprising because those kind of activities are the same happening in Silicon Valley and Dushanbe countries. If we are encouraging those young entrepreneurs, youngsters, then that will be a very good starting point to diversify and to enhance industrial structure of Tajikistan economy. That I've learned from those countries, from the young generation. So if we are trying to support and encourage those activities in developing countries, that will be a cornerstone to make a step up for the digitalization era. This is my very brief intervention. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Su. It's very interesting. And then thank you. It's really interesting to know your experience of knowledge co-creation in the digital transformation area. Yeah. So thank you. And then I would like to move to the question to the Dr. Klingbeil. Are you here? So yeah, thank you for emphasizing the importance of the knowledge sharing or knowledge co-creation, that tacit knowledge or silent knowledge. So I really echo to your comment too. So just want to ask a bit more about your perception about this point. So what to do about the digital cooperation to create more tacit knowledge together? You mentioned about it's very important to utilize the various modalities, like not only development cooperation, but the knowledge sharing presented by the Dr. Su too, and then others. So I want to ask, what would be maybe it's a difficult question, but what would be the optimal combination of these various modalities based on the development stage or region? Like what would be the good combination for the Asia, Africa? I know there's no straightforward answer for this, but I just want to know more about your idea. Dr. Klingbeil, can I have your thought?
Yeah, thank you for your good question, but also a challenging question. A few quick points on this. I think, and implicitly I was already, one point is the concept of the book about translative adaptation is already very much about it, yeah. But the challenge is to make it concrete, yeah. I think on a conceptual level we agree, but to make it operational. To make it operational, one aspect is, I think, partner countries, for good reasons, like to focus on recent experiences. Why do they not come to UK, France, or Germany to learn about something what European countries are doing? It's our experiences already a long time ago. This is why Singapore, why Korea, again, Japan, I think it's a bit in between, are much more interesting. And this should also influence what we are doing. One other aspect, during my time in Seoul, my center was using a modality, we called it SDG partnership. It included, delegations coming to Korea, but one aspect was also about some kind of seed funding. And this seed funding, what could be used by partner institutions in respective countries, was a strong incentive sometimes, but also quite important that partner institutions had the flexibility to think about what is most important to us, just as a footnote, I mean, Rwanda, I know Rwanda for many reasons quite well. What is interesting, Rwanda is selling their own homegrown solutions, but if you want to invite a public official from Rwanda to come to Germany, to come to Japan or to another country, this is very difficult because Rwandan government would typically say, we do not want to have this kind of workshop tourism, etc. So what I want to say is Rwandan government is very skeptical about the sustainability of those things. And this should also trigger a bit our thinking, how can we make it really a long-lasting experience? And this is not easy. I mean, to invite a delegation to travel somewhere, this is always easy because human beings love to travel, but to make it a long-lasting experience, this is quite a challenge. So just some indications about my thinking, probably not a solution, but those are some important aspects, I think. Thank you. Back to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Klingberg. It's very interesting. And thank you for trying to answer to the challenging question too. So now I'd like to ask Professor Ohno, do we still have time or should we close the session?
I think maybe we should be closing the session. So maybe that if you have one question, let me answer it and then we will close. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. So maybe can I ask a question to Professor Ohno?
Okay.
Yeah, okay. So I think we discussed a lot about not only about knowledge transfer, but the knowledge co-creation, which is you've been researching a lot about this for a long time. And then I understand your point is that Japan may also wish to build an intellectual network with a recent industrializer more systematically to be a facilitator of the translative adaptation approach. I know you are also researching like a network development, a policy dialogue, but I would appreciate if you can give us how can we achieve this, or what would be the idea you are thinking at this moment?
Okay, thank you very much. So let me have a very important question. I don't have a clear answer yet, but what I think is that I think it is very important to create or build that knowledge platform by inviting recent emerging partner. I think Stefan just told me that I think many countries want to learn from the recent kind of that country which have made a very important that milestone. So Japan or Germany, I think Korea is more recent, but our experience may be a bit kind of the old. So how we can bring those emerging partner in this knowledge platform with the understanding of the importance of the translative adaptation, for example. It is not just setting your own model. It is important. You have to kind of be sensitive about the country-specific situation, and also comparative analysis is important. I think Ethiopia learned from Singapore, but also shared with the Japanese example, right? So they compared. So I think by creating that kind of knowledge cooperation platform, you can bring the various the countries which could share their expertises, and thematically by different countries can share their experiences, and we can have a comparative perspective. The other is to share that the methodology or modality or methodology of cooperation, what issues have to be mindful. In that way, I hope we can create that kind of platform. And then if you go deeply, we can have a the topic working group like Jin-san is doing for Kaizen in Africa. So I hope based on today's discussion with the presence of Dr. Shao of the KDI, which has a 20th century, 20th anniversary, and also Stefan, which I think I just saw that your book has been just published in the website of the Amazon. And I hope we could thinking about how to organize this kind of platform, and also experienced partner can also provide something, like in the case of Japan, our perspective. Our particular experience may not be applicable in today's world, but I think methodology or thinking perspective, which we have accumulated so far, would be some use. So I hope we could continue discussing this, and then I hope this could be an important kind of stepping that stone for the future collaboration, for intellectual collaboration with partners today. So let me end this today's the webinar, and thank you so much for your participation by excellent the speakers and also our colleague. We work together, and I hope we will keep working together, and then we will meet again. Thank you very much.